Okay, so the idea here is to um, create an ability to create a program. The idea behind doing this was to offer a program that kind of is a different format from what I usually do. Usually what I do is I um, directly try to help the people that I speak to. But what I wanted to do is something different, which is to teach a select group of people how to do what I do, the techniques of what I do, and specifically the techniques around how to break the pain of loneliness. So what we're trying to do is not create a band-aid on the pain of loneliness, which is maybe to find a distraction, which may be a goal, a relationship, or something, but actually to go to the source of the pain and try to dissolve it right there, to break that pain. And so what I have is a comprehensive system for how I go about doing that, where I'm trying to help people get, it's like from the top of their head to the bottom of their feet, their whole system, trying to go in all aspects of their life, in all aspects of their existence, to start to look at themselves and play with different areas of life in a way which starts to open up this internal world. I think that feeling lonely is very much a result of feeling small. It's a result of feeling trapped and really tiny in a very big world and out of place. And I think that, as humans, we like to say that one of the biggest questions is, are we alone in the universe? Like, are there other forms of life? And I never really, that never really was a big deal for me. And I couldn't figure out why. And I think the reason is I think that obviously it is interesting if there are other forms of life. And if we would find one, that would be pretty cool. But I think the real thing is that I think it's almost a misplaced, it's a projection. It's a projection of an insecurity of being alone, of feeling small in the universe. Is this it? Is there anyone here? We're kind of dropped into the world and we're like, what? Like, is there anyone here? Can anyone hear me? And we've lacked the capacity to connect to ourselves and connect to other humans, that our last hope for a connection is some other form of life. So loneliness is a product of a lack of inner space, a lack of inability to experience one's being to its fullest. When someone is really feeling alive, really on an inner exploration, so they're active in life and they have an engaged life, they have an engaged family life, an engaged work life, but there's this, it's all comes along with this deep inner exploration of how they're peeking into themselves and learning more about who they are. They're not going to feel lonely. Loneliness is a product of being cut off from one's source, cut off from one's body, cut off from one's soul and purpose. And so what I would like to do here is to create an environment of people where we are learning about the ways in which to help people start to explore themselves through the problems and the issues that come up in life, but to use those as opportunities for inner exploration. And what that does is It kills many birds with one stone, because it alleviates the issues, the practical issues that they're facing, because they actually get unstuck, they start doing what they know they need to do, but it comes along with learning more about who they are, which is really what we need. What we really need is to learn more about ourselves, to feel like we are doing what we're here to do. Any questions at this point?
No questions, very wise words. And again, you've got me thinking a lot. Something I talk about is being home to yourself. And so that just is really reflected in what you just said.
Okay.
Stay
Yeah.
home to yourself.
Yeah.
Love that.
Is
I love that
anybody,
expression, be a home to yourself.
is anybody home?
Right. So many people look outside for a salve to, like, you know, fix those like you said, the busyness and the, like, to kind of fix those existential things. But the answer is in us. So you're right. I think it's an exploration internally. But how do we do that?
Yeah.
That's my question. How do we do that?
Yeah. So what I'll give is a high level overview of, so there's going to be 22 modules to this, that I would, I'm thinking of doing over 22 weeks. So about an hour and a half session of practicing one of 22 things. So what I do is I will explain something, I'll explain the reasoning behind it, the idea behind it, demonstrate it, and then practice it, which means you get an opportunity not just to have it done to you, but to do it for someone else in the group. David, you experienced this in a recent event. I actually tried this out, and I remember your feedback on that was it was really interesting to actually practice doing it. There's a different perspective that you get, and you get a lot of learning out of that, to experience these techniques both really from three perspectives: from doing it, from having it done to you, and then from watching someone do it to someone else. You get those three perspectives are very, very helpful in learning. That's how one of the programs that I went through in my training involved that, and I thought it was a really, really, really good form of learning. So each week, that's what we'll be doing. The system, it goes from the super practical to the very spiritual. I'll put in the chat the list of the, I don't know, sometimes things don't paste well in chat. No, it doesn't paste with the numbers, so, but whatever, I'll paste it, I'll do it anyways. But the idea is we're going to start with the more simple stuff. So today I'll be demoing something that's going to come towards the end, but we'll be starting with the more simple, going through different areas of life and learning how to make minor adjustments that have very meaningful outcomes and very meaningful impact on the person who's going through them. And the way we're going to look at life, I think the third or fourth thing on the list is the 8 areas of life. So the 8 areas of life is, I learned it as 6 from my teacher, but the 8 areas of life is starting to look at ourselves a little bit from a meta perspective, and to see that we are operating on 4 levels. We're constantly operating on 4 different levels. So we're operating on the physical level, we're operating on the emotional level, and we're operating on the intellectual level. And we're also operating on a deeper level, which you might call purpose or soul, meaning, energy. So we're operating all the time in these different levels. And in each of these levels, we have an internal private life and we have an external life. So we have an internal physical life, our health, and we have an external life, the environment we live in, our financial situation. We have our internal emotional life, and then we have our external emotional life with relationships. We have our ideas, our intellectual ideas, and then we have how we express our ideas. And then we have our internal way we connect our source, our own prayer, our own practice. And then we have the way in which we express that purpose in the world. What's the meaning, why we're here, what we're going to do. And there's really, I've asked people if they can think of anything in life that doesn't sit in one of these 8 categories, and I haven't gotten ever an answer that anything is really outside of this. So this is a pretty holistic view of where we are. And so what I do when I work with people is I get them to start to zoom out and look at themselves by focusing on these different areas and watching them from a little bit of a bird's eye view. People get so focused in their career, they get so focused on their relationship, they get so focused on health, that they lose this vantage point of them being a person that's operating on all these 8 domains. And the funny thing is that the issues that we have on one usually reflect themselves in the others. So someone who's having a health issue, what's holding them back in their health is typically the same thing that's holding them back in their relationships. The issues they go through all of it. And when we just focus so deeply on one, we think that there's a specific thing in this area of life that we have to fix. And we get so focused on that, we just disconnect from ourselves because we don't realize that there's a bigger issue going on. But if we'd start looking at ourselves a little bit more holistically, we'd start actually seeing the patterns and seeing what's going on. So one of the first things that we do in the most simple and basic level is to start to take this perspective and we use it to change our life around in a more playful way. It seems a little bit overwhelming to think that I'm going to be working on 8 different things. And when I've told people about it, they're like, I can't do that. I can work at maybe like 2 or 3 things at a time. But when I say work on, I don't mean work on it intensely. I mean just to try to play around with it and think about it a little bit each day, 1 a day. So if you're going to say, I'm going to be mindful about my life for 15 minutes every day, it's better to be mindful, to switch the areas of life you're being mindful about. So one day think about your health, one day think about your career, the next day think about your emotions, and so on and so forth. Then it would be to just focus on one. The effects become really profound because as you work on them together and you start to peel away the layers and see into yourself, because the blocks are the same, what you do in your health will change your career, will change your relationships, will change the way you think. They all start to change. When one of them changes, they all start to change, and all in the same direction. What typically happens with people where they get stuck and ultimately really lonely and distant from themselves is they put all their efforts into one area. Maybe they put everything into their career, but their health goes away and their relationships don't go well. And then they kind of just stall out or burn out. And they realize they've gotten nowhere because they're trying to push so hard in one area of life, but the other 7 are sinking. And so they're just not going anywhere. They're actually just getting into a bigger hole. So we have to learn to move ourselves in unison. It's like, I have a family. If I would decide I want to go somewhere and I wouldn't tell my wife or my kids where I'm going, and I'm just going to go and expect them to follow me, it's not going to happen. like we got to talk about this and know what we're doing before we do it. If we're not all on the same page, it's just going to be disconnected and it's going to be a mess. So the first basic idea is to create this connection in different areas of life and to start looking at this a little bit more. I think it's just a smarter way of doing it. That sets the foundation and the stage to then start doing the deeper work. There's two main forms of the deeper work. And, much of I would say, most of what we're going to be doing, after the 7th week, week 8 and on, is going to be this deeper work. And to divide into two general categories would be for number one, to learn how to teach people to have deep conversations with themselves. And to open up to the idea that we can have these conversations. There was a story about a man who was very lost in life, and he called a holy man on the phone and didn't want to say his name, but said, "I have questions in life." And the holy man responded to him, "There's a guy, his name is so-and-so, you should ask him." And it was the guy's name who was making the phone call. Meaning, talk to yourself, learn how to talk to yourself. So we get very conflicted. A lot of our blocks are a result of inner conflict. And when we start talking to ourselves, it's a huge, huge thing that begins to open ourselves up, because we've been accustomed to thinking we can only be this way. But really, we can be this way and that way and the other way. We have so many ways in which we can be. But we need to have deeper conversations with ourselves so that we are ready to take these different paths and these different routes about how we're going to go in things. So, for example, I was speaking to a guy who has health issues. This was one of the first events that I did. He has health issues and he wants to eat healthy, but it's hard for him to eat healthy because where he lives, eating is very social, it's very important. And if he doesn't eat with people, he feels kind of alone or separate. So I guided him to have a conversation with himself where he could figure out a way to eat healthy, but not feel alone around people, but still feel connected to them, even though he wasn't necessarily having the same food that they were eating. It was just a conversation with himself. So these conversations are a very big practice in developing conscious and awareness, because the process works basically like this. Let's take him, for example. He's associated eating with feeling connected and attached to a person. Okay? That's how he operates. He's not aware of that. That's just how he is. That's all he knows. But he doesn't know that this is how he is. It's just how he is. Once he had the conversation, then he was able to see himself from a higher perspective. Oh, I'm this way because this is how I feel connected. But I could also feel connected by doing this. So what's happened in this inner conversation is not just that he's found a new way of acting that's more healthy. It's that he's actually gone a level closer into his soul so he can see himself who he was now from a more objective perspective. So when we have these inner conversations, what we end up doing is we end up climbing the ladder deeper into ourselves. By talking to the feelings that nag us and beginning to interact with them and converse with them, we go deeper into ourselves. Because if we don't do that, we're being run by the feelings. Once we start talking to them, we go deeper than the feelings, and we can actually start to have choice in how we behave. But that choice is now coming because we've connected to a deeper part of ourselves, a place of awareness, a place of consciousness. And that's a huge, huge step in breaking through and not feeling alone, and not feeling stuck, and not feeling like there's no space inside. A huge amount of space opens up. When I did this work one time, I had a thing where I didn't let myself have fun. And in one of these conversations, I was able to find and start to talk to the part of me that wanted to have more fun, wanted to do more fun things in life, and not just always be taking care of responsibilities. And that opened up. I now was able to experience myself in a totally different way, where I wasn't being negligent and not taking care of responsibilities, but I was also having fun. So these conversations always are what is preventing someone from taking a new step in life. Very often is having these conversations, because the reason why they're not taking that step forward is because it's coming into conflict with the way that they're used to be. But if they start talking with themselves and talking with the way they're used to being, then they can also then find a part of them that's able to be different, that they want to become more, that they want to get in touch with. And that's how space starts to open up inside. And that's one main thing we're going to be doing. The other thing that we're going to do, and this is what we're going to actually demonstrate here, is what's much closer to my heart. And that's more pure somatic work, where we're not using words. We're just interacting directly with the body without the use of words, just through sensations and through what is going on inside the body. Whenever we use words, we are severely limiting the information that we can receive from our body. So our gut has as much brain matter as a cat. There's, as big as a cat's brain is, we got that much in our gut. And 90% of it, it's almost like, on a highway, you have cars going this way, you have cars going that way. So it's like 90% of it is going from our gut to our brain. Only 10% of it's going from our brain down to our gut. When we say we have a gut feeling, this isn't like it's actually information that our body is picking up and sending to us. And it's these sensations that carry the deepest truths about who we are. Whenever something is truly, truly deep, it's usually not able to be expressed in words, but it's expressed in just a knowing, an inner sense of knowing, I just know this is me, or I just know this is right. When someone connects to that, they are not alone, because they're speaking directly to their soul. You can't be alone if you're in touch with your soul. It's just not possible. And so the last body of work is to really try as best as we can to let go of the thoughts and the thinking and gain direct connection to the body in a various sorts of ways. And all of these practices, they all connect back to the first thing we start with, which is those different areas of life and the little changes we want to make. So what starts with, okay, I'm going to make a little change in my health, a little change in my career, a little change in how I deal with my feelings. We start with that little change, and then we go to that inner dialogue, that inner conversation. And then once we have that inner dialogue, there's certain feelings that start to move around in the body. And then we start going deep into those feelings. That's the last part. And that continuous process of exploring one's inside life, using their outer life and what's going on in their situation to explore their inner situation from all these different vantage points with all these different techniques, is a comprehensive system to start to open people up and begin to have them see that there's so much more space and there's so much more going on inside of them. That the world around them is just kind of a playground for them to explore themselves. And I think that's when people feel more in their bodies, they feel more connected to their souls, they make real connections with other people, and that ultimately that's how, and they start to feel like they're filling their purpose, their mission, their soul. They start feeling that in different areas that they never felt it before. And ultimately, that's how they stop feeling lonely.
Ari, when you say that we have a conversation with ourselves,
Yeah.
Are you saying that we literally talk to ourselves out loud, or is it more that we ask ourselves a question and then we meditate or contemplate on it, and it's more of an internal conversation?
So I'll be teaching it in two variations. One is you will learn how to facilitate a conversation for someone else. So you'll learn how to help people get in touch with a certain part of themselves, and you'll talk with them, and then you'll invite them to explore a different part of who they are. But then you'll also learn for yourself to facilitate that for yourself, to go inside and look into a part of yourself and start to ask questions. And obviously, yeah, you ask the question, you think the question to yourself, and then you listen to the answer, and you write it down. And you ask another question, you think, and you write it down. And then it's basically an advanced journaling exercise. And all of the practices, I teach them how to do them as an advanced journaling exercise, because that allows you to do two things that I think are really powerful. One, you can go solo. You can do it for yourself whenever you want to. You don't need to rely on someone else. It's always good to have someone else when you can get them, but it's also very important to be able to do this yourself. And two, you could teach other people how to do it for themselves. So if you're working with someone and trying to help them, and you teach this to them, when something comes up for them, they have a practice that they can go to that they've been taught. They're not reliant on someone else. Whenever there's a conflict or an issue that they feel triggered or, in a difficult spot.
I have a question as well.
Yeah.
The somatic work that you were talking about, follow all of that, like your gut instincts are like the strongest, truest messages that you're getting from your body. But what in this work are you talking about doing with that? How are we interacting with that, I guess, knowledge or something that's coming up from the bodily experiences?
So you're saying when you get that experience, what does it actually do for you? What do you do with it?
What do you do with it?
Okay, so the beauty of somatic work is you don't have to do anything with it. It does it to you. We're used to thinking that we have an idea in our head, we think about it, we focus on it, we get excited about it, and then we do it. It's a top-down process. The top-down process requires effort every single step of the way. The bottom-up process doesn't. So when I see a donut, it's Hanukkah now, so it's lots of donuts. When I see a donut, I don't need to integrate the desire to eat the donut. The donut's going to get integrated all on its own, you know, into my system if I can't restrain myself. So when you do somatic work around something, you connect to your body in a way where you just, the shift is very deep and very profound, and it just happens. There's nothing you need to do. It's like when you wake up in the morning, and you just wake up and you just know today's going to be a bad day. You just wake up and you just got that feeling like, oh, sucks. Right? You don't have to do anything for after that, one thing after another to go wrong. Because your body, if your body feels like it sucks, it just will. And the opposite, if you wake up in the morning and you just feel good, you just flow with that and it's just going to be good. So with somatic work, whatever happens in those moments, you know, it takes effort for us to direct our bodies in a direction that they're not going. But it takes no effort to just allow our body to just go where it wants to go. So when we're starting to listen and open up to a different part of ourselves and stop blocking it out, then it will just go there. There isn't any effort in integration.
Right, so it's about just being with, rather than me trying to find the intellectual piece of the somatic work, which is so antithetical. Yeah.
The difficult thing in somatic work is to be able to again, like I prefaced it, the big deal with it, to know when you're doing it and when you're not, is, are you using words? Are you trying to think it? Or is it just being? Is it just happening? You're just feeling or sensing. So it takes a skill to learn to be with ourselves in a pure sensory experience, rather than, you know, thinking, making sense of. Yeah.
That somehow speaks back to the loneliness piece for me. When we're comfortable just being,
Yeah.
that's like, that fills up that space.
Yeah. So yeah, so let's go into the you know, a demo of what week 17 will be like. Obviously, when we do it, it's going to be much more time, a little bit more expanded out. But let's just have a little brief somatic experience, just kind of get a feel. So let's just like take a minute just to get comfortable where we are. We're gonna do a little bit of a meditation now. So let's just get a little bit comfortable where we are. You know, make sure we're comfortable in the chair where we're sitting. Feel our feet. Feel how they're coming in contact with the floor, if they are. And close your eyes. And notice if you can sense the weight that your feet has on the floor. And see if with your eyes closed, if you can notice any difference between how the right foot is or on the left foot, is the weight more to one side? Does one foot feel like it's at a different angle than the other? And now move up and just sense how you're sitting. And again here, just ask the simple question of, am I sitting more? Can I feel how my weight is maybe sitting differently on one side versus the other? Does one side feel heavier? Are there any other differences? And now feel your back. If you're sitting back in a chair, one thing that's interesting to pay attention to is what parts of your back are touching the back of the chair and what parts of it is there like air or space between your back and the chair? And if you pay attention to your breathing, as you feel the air coming in, do you feel how your back is moving? And this is one of my favorite questions, which is, as the air is coming in, can you notice a difference between how the air fills one side of your chest or belly versus the other? Does one side seem like it's filling up first? Or are they moving the same? And now, what we're going to do is almost like, imagine you're looking inside your body and see if there's anything in particular that catches your attention. Any sensation or feeling. It could be maybe a tingling in the hand or the feeling of your heart beating, maybe just something in your core or your belly. Just pick one thing that is interesting to you. And just sit with that for a minute. You can almost imagine that as you're breathing, the air that you're breathing is going directly to that sensation. And as you're kind of going into this experience of what's happening, if you were to describe it, try only to see it as the way you would describe something if you were learning physics. So there's no bad or good. We're not even really getting into feelings or emotions. We're just describing what's physically happening. Is it heavy or light, warm or cold? Where exactly is it? Front or back? Is it moving? We're just following that thing, whatever that thing is, we're just following it and being with it. Like, we're scuba diving and we found a reef and we're just swimming into it and looking at it from all the angles we can and just watching. Just take a minute just to breathe and watch this one thing that we have been now with for the past few minutes. Just keep on watching it and sensing it. Now, what we're going to do is stay in touch with whatever you've been watching. Stay with it, but open your eyes and just look around the room. So open your eyes and move your head. I'm demonstrating this. Just move your head side to side. And with some attention on what you've been noticing inside of you, keep some attention there, but also just look around and just notice what's on the walls, anything catch your attention. And just after you've kind of looked around a little bit, then close your eyes again and go back inside and see what you notice now. We're not necessarily trying to find anything. Nothing needs to happen. There's no right or wrong way to do it. But what we are doing is paying attention to ourselves in a way that we're not usually accustomed to. So we're not thinking, we're not doing, we're just curiously looking into ourselves and sensing what's there. Now, this is totally optional, but if one of you would like to share, you can, with your eyes closed, just stay with it. If one of you would like to actually share what you're experiencing inside, you can do that. But if you would like to just keep it to yourself, that's fine too.
I'm happy to share. So I was left with just a feeling of like a light ball in my chest of soreness, kind of stickiness where it is attached to me, and there's like a protectiveness to that feeling, like a shield. And was just sat with this ball of what's going on there, in that kind of connection, chest area.
Yeah. So as you sit with that, can you notice see how the breath, how those sensations can kind of move along with the breath? So when you're breathing, there is movement in that area. So sense what's there, the stickiness, the protectiveness, and also feel how when you breathe, there's some movement there. And just try feeling that. We're always going to be coming back to movement and the playing through moving, not forcing or pushing, but moving with something and just seeing how we feel with different forms of movement. What's that like?
Yeah, that there is some movement. It's not just like a stone, it's more integrated, like alive, not inanimate.
Yeah, so just stay with that. And we'll end the experience with this one question, which is, can you find meaning, a sense of meaning in this experience, even though you may have no idea what it's doing? Can you appreciate the experience for having it, even though you have no idea what's actually going on? And you can open your eyes. How was that?
That was cool. My attention shifted as we were going through the experience. When I first closed my eyes, I was aware of like this pulsing sensation, but not like heartbeat pulse, but more like energetic pulse, especially around my hands and my arms. I could feel this energetic pulsation. And then when you were asking about how I might feel different right to left, I became aware that my left side, my entire left side felt lower and heavier than my right. And I became aware that on my left side of my face, it felt mildly numb. And the fact that it was mildly numb drew my attention more than my face just feeling normal. It's like the numbness was more attention grabbing. And then yeah, my energy would then go back to my hands. I became aware of the energy in my hands. Yeah, it kind of was shifting. And then sometimes I became aware of light, especially when you had us open our eyes and look around the room. And then after closing my eyes again, then I was maybe from having opened my eyes and closed them, I was conscious of the light. I was conscious of my room is kind of cold right now. And so I was conscious of the cool air that I was breathing, and it actually felt kind of refreshing. That cool air felt refreshing. That was a great experience. Yeah, it just really gets you in the now. It really gets you in that objective, higher consciousness perspective.
Yeah, that's just looking at the body. That's it.
But Ari, I'd really like to like acknowledge your skill in just holding that space really powerfully there. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So yeah, so that was, you know, a taste of one of my favorite, or probably my favorite thing about all this is having that direct contact experience with the body. And you know, that last question that I asked really sums it all up, which is, you know, really, isn't it something to find meaning in an experience that we just can't make sense out of? There's nothing, no point to it. You could say, oh, there's a point to this, but there's just something meaningful about that. And I think it's a real step closer to our soul, to our purpose, because whenever someone's following a purpose or on a mission, they're not doing it for some reason. You can't reason them to do it. You can't reason them out of it. They just feel like this is what they're here for. This is what they need to do. This is who they are. And so being in this space is a way to become much more receptive to that part of ourselves and to begin to live it and experience it. So what the course will be, I put it in the notes to the event, but what the course will be is, you know, probably looking to start sometime in January and find a time every week when whoever wants to do it will be able to come. And it's 22 weeks, $50 a week. So you could pay weekly or pay in full. It really doesn't matter. I just come if you want. And if it's working for you, continue. And if it's not, don't. And that's really it. If you want to do it, or if you have more questions about it, just send me an email. I'll put my email here in the chat. And we'll set up a meeting to kind of go over a little bit what you're looking for with this, what you want to get out of it, just to make sure it's a fit. And if you have any questions, you can ask them now or ask them later. It's up to you.
Who do you think is a fit? Like, who are your ideal people to be part of this? Who are you wanting to reach, or how do you imagine the
just someone who feels that this is just right for me. If you know, if you went along with the process and you feel like, yeah, this just feels right for me, I want to do this, I can't explain why, but I really want to do it, then probably it's right for you. If it's more like, I'm not so sure, I have some questions, this thing sounds interesting, but that I'm not so sure about, probably not worth the time.
so tune into your call?
Yeah. Yeah. Any
I
other
just
questions?
thank you, Ari. Well, I want to just say thank you for this experience. That was, I think it really just that exercise that you had us do. I think it taps us into that sense of pure consciousness. I think that's really, it's an exercise that taps us into that. We always are pure consciousness, but we're not conscious of being pure conscious. And so that really dialed, at least for me, it dialed me into that sense of pure consciousness. And also, Sally, it was just nice to interact with you a little bit, and just have this experience of seeing you on Zoom after, communicating through comments on LinkedIn. It was nice to see your face and get a sense of your personality and everything. And I thought you obviously have a lot of depth to you. It was really great to meet you in this context and get a sense of your personality.
Thanks, David. Yeah, I mean, I try to show up open-hearted, safe space, room full of strangers who I'm just trusting, and it felt very much you again, Ari. Like you created that safeness to be just like no filter. So thanks.
Yeah, thanks for the feedback. I appreciate it. And you were great to talk to. You have a great energy. I enjoyed it. So, and David, of course, we enjoy each other. So yeah. All right. Okay. Well, anything else? Or that's it. That's it.
Thank you, Ari.
All right.
Thank you.
So much, Sally. Thank you, David.
Happy holidays.
And have a wonderful, happy holiday season and happy new year. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.